Well, hello there trainers, greetings, KuroBlitz here, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to do a response to a tag challenge that I was asked for in May, June around this year, which is the return of a tag challenge from 4 years ago, from 2021, that being the Wants to Journey tag challenge. So here today I'm going to bring it up back. For those who don't know and need a clear reminder on this, the Wants to Journey tag challenge was created by Crasher Plays and Reacts, and it abided to some of few rules, which were having one starter Pokemon max on your team, one pseudo legendary as well. It could be or not, but you could only have one if you do so. You need a team of 9 Pokemon, so 3 rotations are allowed, no legendaries or mythicals whatsoever in the team, and you would need to tag 5 people at the very least. I was retagged by Professor Caspian and Colby Black. Make sure to check their channels. I'm gonna leave the description to the videos down below. And when it comes to this second challenge, I do like the revigoration of it, and I want to at least end the year, even though it was a very busy summer, with my new version of what I would do if I was in the anime world. And with that, I feel like it's very important to, see where all it leads. So, I want to present to you a brand new journey, or at least the beginning of it, being my journey throughout the Pokemon world. And again, my original OC was from South Kalos because there was no Paldea yet. However, they are going to be still from South Kalos, still from KuroBlitz City, but they are going to be born in Paldea. They just went there for a job. So there you have it. And now with Legend ZA, it's going to be very more interesting to see where it all leads to. This could be the episode 0 or just the overall tag, so I'm just gonna leave it up to you. Anyways, let me show you my new Wants to Journey 2025 tag challenge. So there you have it. Let's go! As for my full roster, I want to have a team that emblematics all of the 18 current types of Pokemon. My character would, battle in the Maison with the Chatelaines, train with them, but it would work as, a helper or a clerk or the warden or, the Friend Safari in KuroBlitz City. The Pokemon that I would have throughout all of this adventure, really, they would be the following: Armarouge, Barbaracle, Heliolisk, Grimmsnarl, Vivillon, Chestnut, Frostlass, Hisuian Gudra, and Clodsire. I feel like this is, a very emblematic team. You get like Sinnoh, Galar, Hisui, 2 Paldea, and 4, Kalos. I think it's very emblematic. My starter, the de facto one would be a Charka that becomes an Armarouge, but the one that I would actually get, it would be, Chespin becoming a Chestnut. As you can see, they are all of the 18 types: Fire Psychic, Rock Water, Normal Electric, Dark Fairy, Bug Flying, Grass Fighting, Ice Ghost, Dragon Steel, and Poison Ground. As for the actual plot, I think I'm going to mimic a little of, Pokemon Horizons here, where I would see a shiny Lugia fly in the south of the region. It's basically a mix of, the shiny Rayquaza from Horizons and the Lugia from Journeys. It's going to be a shiny Lugia. You can see exuding a lot of psychic energy from its pink coloration. And it's going to, leave very impressively, a Charcadet that, walked through the mountains from, Paldea to Kalos to basically reach here, right? And becoming an Armarouge, it's going to, be the rite of passage after, besting this Lugia, the title Sea Storm Pokemon, in a fight. Trying to vanquish the currents with flames. And just like the plot of the 6 hero Pokemon from Pokemon Horizons, Lugia, it's going to task me. This is also because in X and Y you get like the roaming birds and the sea spirit den, but that never really leads anywhere, and I want to lead somewhere here. After proving Charcadet's worth in battle, Lugia does leave something to, you know, basically try to find their teammates to see if they are worth of, you know, battling Lugia once again. And this is the 5 silver feathers, you know. They are going to, you know, gleam and brighter after I am near one of Lugia's former comrades. And this is where the story would lead. I would get a train from, you know, Kilud City to the capital of Lumios to get more information of that. And this is where I find a group of, you know, adventurers that are also doing a lot of, you know, expeditions throughout several points of the Kalos region. And those are the Lux. L-U-X, Lumios Unit of Exploration. It's filled to the brim with a lot of characters, all of them being from Pokemon Duel, since it was a mobile game in Generation 6. So think of it, you know, as a mix of explorers with the Rising Voltaclers, but in heart and soul, this is basically, you know, the Fairy Tail Guild. And I would be paired up with, you know, 2 upcoming trainers as well that once researched as aides under Professor Sycamore. They are basically the Alan before the Alan, and those would be Dexio and Sina. As for the original teams that they would have during their Kalos run, they would be, for Dexio, Braixen, Aromatisse, and Auroras, and for Sina it would be Frogadier, Slurpuff, and Pangoro. So you get the other 2 starters, the Fairy Trait Foodmon evolution, and the Pokemon that evolves, you know, with a Dark type, and one that evolves via Nighttime. I think it would be very fitting. During the other regions, I think, you know, during my Orange and Johto equivalent, which would be, you know, South Kalos, and it would be, you know, Galar, because it's still European. I would not return to Paldea yet. The additions that I would have on their teams as, you know, replacements and substitutions and rotations. For Dexio, it would be Slowking, Banette, Marowak, Zoroark, Appleton, and Sirfetch. For Sina, it would be Jinx, Lopunny, Sandslash, Rapidash, Flapple, and Berserker. From top to bottom, they would have Pokemon that are both Psychic types. They don't have a Mega but should. You have Pokemon that are pure type in their second stage that have a Mega. You have Pokemon that are ground but get regional variants that are not ground. You get Pokemon that, you know, replace all of their types when it comes to their regional variants, being Rapidash and Zoroark. You get the lovers, you know, Applin Divergent Pokemon. Someone else would get Hydrapple, I don't know who. And then you would get, you know, the regional evolutions from Pokemon of other types. The normal flying Farfetch is now fighting, evolves, and the normal Meowth is now steel and evolves, and they evolve into completely different species. And speaking of, you know, Kalos and Galar, they would bond with, you know, the roaming Pokemon. Dexio would bond with, you know, Galarian Articuno, Moltres, and Spectrier, and Sina would bond and battle eventually Articuno, regular, Galarian, Moltres, and Glastrier. The Pokemon that I would bond with, they would be, you know, both the electric and the fighting type version of Zapdos and Calyrex. Continuing on with, you know, all of these, you know, expeditions from the Lumios unit of exploration, after knowing all of this, like, all of these would be like in 84 episodes that, you know, it's the same length as, you know, the Indigo League. And every circle amounts to, you know, a 3-parter. Like, no routes would actually be explored, but it would be landmarks. And they would go counterclockwise from, you know, orange to red. So this would be, you know, the Pokemon that we have to find with the silver feathers of Lugia. And these are known as the 6 Sorors. And those would be Shiny Lugia, Yveltal, Aerodactyl, Tropius, Pidgeot, and Salamence. The 6 Sorors, just like the 6 heroes, they are very powerful Pokemon for the species that they are. And here is the kicker. They were the team of Pokemon from the first Sky Trainer of the world, and it's the one that, you know, lived in the Kalos region even long before the time of Lucius. The way that I would locate these Pokemon, it would be, in the other 5 corners of, the districts of Lumiose. They would go all out. It would be Aerodactyl in Glittering Cave, Tropius in Vanderville. It would be Salamence in Terminus Cave, and a star would have Pidgeot. And last but not least, you would have like Yveltal and Geosenge to echo the games, and then you would see Lugia in the center of Lumiose City, and I would rendezvous back to Keylode. This would be like an amazing story with a lot of characters, a lot of missions. It's basically trying to be a Pokemon trainer, but not really on a gym going route, where I would fight gym leaders to test my strength and they would help me out in these raids, but it would be very, very much different. Like, some gym leaders could help out in some of these missions. I think it would be very fitting. Like, for example, in the yellow version, in the yellow route, it would be, Valerie and Olympia. And in, like, there's just so much. Like, I'm just gonna leave it, more headcanon based, also for you to, comment below and give, like, your own 2 cents on this matter. The first Sky Trainer had 2 major descendants that are going to be, very helping the story for me, Sina, and Dexio. And those are Amelia and Alyssa. Amelia is the photographer from Pokemon Shuffle, another Gen 6 game, and I'm going to headcanon her as the older sister of Trevor, who is basically Alexa's protege, or Kohai. Alyssa, it's, basically the champion of the Iron League of Ferrum of Pokken, another Gen 6 game, and she would be Mayer's younger sister, so the aunt of Clement and Bonnie, and she would be, the Lumiose gym leader before Clement, so she's the one presiding in Prism Tower. And this would basically be, my travels for Kalos. Like, it would be like my Kanto League equivalent. Now for the Orange League equivalent, just to basically bookend my first generation for this episode 0, it would be Notos, which would be, South Kalos. This is the place that Lysander in the canon tried to help, and this is the place where we meet Emma, so basically the Tracy of our group, to basically form a quartet. And by the end of the actual adventure, we would see Emma in her ZA form. Every time that Emma returns for the journey, she would be in her, middle stage Police Academy schoolgirl uniform that we are going to eventually see in Pokemon Horizons. So South Kalos, it's going to have a name. It's going to be, the Notos region, and it's going to be like this buffer before I go to Galar. Notos, it's, the name of the Greek god of the South Wind, so I think it would be very fitting to, be here. But it also can translate to, unrecognized or bastard, which is kind of like what South Kalos is. We know that it exists, but people don't really talk about it. As for the pacing of the story, I feel like I need to give you like an idea of my travelogue. My character would start as 14 and then it would end at 19, and every saga would be equivalent to 6 months, and you can see it here just by the length of the episodes that I would give in total, right? Because this would basically be it would be over 1200 episodes. For when I'm 14, it's Kalos and Notos. When I'm 15, Galar and Unova. So I will basically go from Kalos to the west and then go back, right? And then I have Alola and Hoenn, and then I have Johto, Sevi, Kanto, Sinnoh, Paldea, and Pasio, to basically get an idea of where these would be in the settings and the series. Kalos and Notos, Indigo and Orange. Galar and Unova, Johto and Hoenn. Alola and Sinnoh, Battle Frontier, Diamond and Pearl. Johto and Sevi, Best Wishes, Decolor Islands. Kanto and Sinnoh, X and Y, Sun and Moon. I would return to my home region of Paldea during journeys, so nothing of that would be tackled. I never meet Ash. And during MPM, I'm in Pasio. To get like a visual cue, this would be the map of, my travels. And I think this is like a very cool map of the Pokemon world. I'm going to leave you know, the description of the artist down below as well, but this is basically where I would be. My Meloetta arc during Best Wishes would be an Ogerpon one in Kitakami. My movie 8, which, you know, my equivalent to a movie 8, because it's an AG movie but it's already in Kanto, it would be a movie in the Ore region. Okay? And I think this is, you know, what I would, you know, have to, you know, preside for all of this. And as I would go on, I feel like I would find my passion in wanting to be a Pokemon coordinator, and during the second half of the story, like, because my version of, you know, DP is going to be in Hoenn, and that's going to be like a massive shift. And then, you know, I would go to Johto Kanto and then finally Sinnoh, and that's, you know, where I would become a great coordinator. But then I would return to Paldea and I would win my first ever Grand Festival there. I would be the first top coordinator of Paldea, and with terrestrialization on top, that's going to be absolutely amazing. And what happens after? In Pasio, during MPM, it's the Coordinator Carnival. A top 16 competition to decide who would be the next contest master after Wallace. These would be, you know, all double battles. And I would use all of my Pokemon to their disposal. You can see the chart that I made. So basically it's 8 regions from Kanto to Paldea. Alola is not included in this. So basically you get, you know, all of these 8 regions, and the ones that are going to participate in this version of the Coordinator's Carnival after the World Coronation Series, it's going to be the winner and the runner-up of the most recent Grand Festivals that have occurred. That's why as much as you win a contest, you need to keep on going after becoming a top coordinator, because you always need to, you know, at least be a finalist to, you know, enter here. And there are some matches here that I think it would be cool, you know, like May getting her revenge on Dawn, and, you know, at least battling Serena, and Serena, you know, defeating Harley. I think it would be very funny. You get, you know, Dawn also getting her revenge on Zoe. You have like cool matches, like for example, Drew battling Wallace's niece, and then having, you know, his lick back on you know, on Soledad. You get like other trainers like, you know, Jasmine from the games, and even original characters like Kelly and you know, Yet. Chris is also present in this, and the same goes for Shauna, and, you know, and the same for Ursula. And I think I've named all of them. Yeah, even Nando is here. Like, I had to replace Kenny with myself. I'm sorry, Kenny. Like, someone had to take the bullet. You don't even made it to the prelims of your first Grand Festival, so it's like, yikes. But yeah, there you have it. This will be, you know, my original idea for, you know, a second Monster Journey. And I think it will be very cool to just, you know, see all of this happen. Like, go from an adventurer to a trainer to a coordinator, and, you know, circle back in terms of, you know, the world map. So even geographically, real world it will be to the west. In that map, it will be to the east. As for the 5 people that I want to tag, y'all, the audience, friends, acquaintances, fans, viewers, like, I could not pick just 5 people. This is like a great challenge, and I know that this may not be, you know, in the interest of everyone, but for who is watching, I do very much appreciate. And again, my tag literally goes to anyone, just like how I was tagged by in general, right? But thank you for the bringing up the challenge. This is always amazing, and let me know what you guys thought about it. If you want to know more of this adventure, let me know in the comment section down below. Leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. I will see you another time, trainers. Thank you so much for your support. KuroBlitz out.